From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Matt Shares.
Welcome to SBI TV, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number. Today we're going to explore how a Chief Revenue Officer navigates shifting market conditions and leads a full go-to-market transformation. Joining me today in the studio is Steve King. Steve's the Chief Revenue Officer of Hexagon PPM. Hexagon PPM is a leading global provider of engineering software for the design, construction, of operation of large plants, ships, and industrial facilities. Think about them as the guts to getting all of those things done. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
If you're watching or listening out there and you don't want to miss one of our shows, just go to the App Store, search for Sales Benchmark Index, and you can download the app. And you can use the notifications to bring our content to you in the way that you'd like it, while you travel, while you work out, or while you commute. All right, this last segment, Steve and I are going to talk about a really interesting concept when you're going through an evolution, which is preserving the core while you're innovating. So if you think about being a CRO, as you evolve a product portfolio, it's a big challenge, especially right now, is as these product lines expand, to think about what do I do with the legacy and how do I maintain our foundation, yet here comes the new stuff. And how do I take the new stuff to market? Who sells it? Same channel, same rep, different rep, all those things. Same buying center, you and I chatted about this last night, right? So, Steve, I guess, how are you sustaining the core of a multi-decade business that's been incredibly successful while bringing in new products?
Yeah, with a lot of discipline, I'll tell you. We subscribe to what I know you preach at SBI, and that is never lose a customer and never lose an A player.
Yep.
So everything we do, those rules can't be violated.
Yeah.
As we've gone through this, it's been very thoughtful down to the customer level. So our existing customer base, we've got a significant annuity revenue stream that, kind of year on year we've had with customers for a long time. Had to protect that. How do we do that? It's just execution 101, really. Communicating with the customers from the top of our business down, talking to them about the transformation and change we're going through, and talking about how that would make us a better, more strategic partner to them. And we haven't lost any customers. In fact, we've picked up business with existing customers. We've got dominant market share in our legacy software area. So it's kind of hard to grow from 55% to 100%, but we are picking up points of market share with our existing customers because we've changed the dialogue and we've got an increased value proposition. The other thing that we did is we went from a product-oriented company where we looked at things through the lens of individual products to standing up verticals that lined up with customer segments and industries. And so we put a structure in place that said, we're going to serve these 4 customer segments. Engineering, procurement, and construction is one. Owner-operators is another. And underneath that, then we get down to the industry level. And you can be an owner-operator of a mine, or you could be an owner-operator of a refinery. And while you're an owner-operator under both scenarios, kind of what you do matters. It's a little different. And so we had to talk at that industry level. Then we got down to the outcomes, the solutions that we sold, and then we got down to the products. And so really we went from product being kind of the top of our engagement model to product and services being at the bottom. At the end of the day, that's how we make our money, but we couldn't go in and sell the new solutions that we were bringing to market like a product sale. It had to be outcome-based, and financial KPI, and operating KPI, and business process change-driven to create the market for what we were selling.
Did you change the assumptions relative to whether it's what you were willing to spend on acquisition cost, how you thought about sort of services revenue, product revenue, like almost zero basing, right, if you will, that side on the new product portfolio?
So we're going through that right now. There's some areas we're absolutely investing ahead of revenue. But we didn't do that until we had a plan. So being able to assess and size the market, identify the ideal customer profile for us, kind of look at how that lays out around the world, and then look at what we need to put in place to operationalize a plan to execute against that market opportunity. That requires an investment. So the nice thing is our legacy business has a lot of weight behind it. So that business, if we don't mess it up, which we haven't, gives us some momentum and buys us a little time to invest in these new areas, which represent untapped potential for us. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So I guess, Steve, last question is, as you think about equipping the sales team with that enablement, as you talked about, okay, we've identified the ideal customer profile, got to think about outcomes. There's a lot of things between call on ABC versus, we're delivering an outcome and there's revenue and we can actually point to EBITDA being generated. How do you think about that enablement last mile relative to the new product portfolio?
Yeah. So I brought other people in that had been there, done that on the enablement front. Enablement, of course, is a big, broad term. But we put in a suite of tools, if you will, to help the field execute on what we were asking them to execute on. There's nothing that is fundamentally groundbreaking about the tools. We're a Salesforce Lightning-based shop. We use Altify for sales process and account management. But there are a couple things that we use that really changed how we enabled and interacted with and prepped the field to do their new job. One is, on top of our full tech stack, we used a product called Squid, which allowed us to build persona-based interfaces based on role. So what a frontline manager sees is different than what a rep sees, is different than what marketing sees, is different than what services sees. This has essentially allowed us to create personas for every role in the company. It's much more than just traditional sales, and it takes away the underlying complexity of the technology stack, and it allows us to proactively position to people what they need to execute.
That's great.
For example, when we're going out and selling solutions to the owner-operator space, we created these things called game plans, which are enabled hierarchical stacks that start out talking about the industry and work all the way through the financial and operating elements required to make that sale, and we proactively position that up through the tools to people.
Like it.
So they don't have to go hunting for content. We've gotten away from content stored on people's hard drives, and we make it available to them without them having to request it. And that's made a big difference for us.
Great. All right, everybody. So you just heard it. Steve took us from end to end as you think about evolving your commercial model, right? A couple key things if you want to think about insights you can take from Steve. Number one is, if you use the term transformation and you start talking about change, the current team goes, wow, so we're terrible. So evolutionary mindset with upskilling people along the way about where we're headed is a critical element. Number two is knowing how to equip the team. And I think what you heard from Steve is it wasn't the Steve show, or it isn't the Steve show, it's the us show, by bringing in the right enablement, the right data, the right tools, the right market intelligence, the right communication rhythm. And then that's the last piece, is the cadence, right? And you can hear the discipline in which how they ran, think through it, identify the market opportunity, the right channel, et cetera. So Steve, great to see you. Specifically, thank you so much for the contribution.
Thank you, Matt.
I know our readers and our listeners are going to get a lot out of that. So thanks for coming by. All right. As always, you have a choice on where you put your eyes and ears, and my team and I appreciate the time. As always, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on the studio, SBI's Executive Briefing Center, our team, or to schedule a workshop, please visit salesbenchmarkindex.com.